Okay, no, I did not bring the Bastet 3.0 back from the future, but we did fix its biggest complaint, added a feature competitor benches get, and tested it in a way most reviews don't. We swapped the wheels, but did it actually fix the problem? You know, because this is where most reviews stop. They mention the issue, but nobody actually changes it and tests the difference. And we figured out how to add arm support like its competitors have. But is it actually worth doing? We're not testing 50 exercises, just the ones that actually tell you if a bench works. So if you like having a little bit of fun with the reviews and you want to see some solutions to gear problems, hit the subscribe button. Now, let's start with the thing most people complain about, actually moving this bench around your gym. The stock wheels on this bench are only about 2 inches in diameter, and they're undersized for the bracket, so you're forced into an awkward roll angle just trying to move it around your gym, which is why so many owners mention the wheel specifically when they do talk about this bench. And at this price point, most people expect better wheel hardware than what's provided by Mikolo. So instead of just calling it out, we swapped them for larger 2.5-inch wheels with bearings, and they keep and use the factory bolt. It's a simple change, but the real question is whether it actually improves how the bench moves day to day. So let's look at it side by side. But one of the complaints on the Bastet is the wheel size. Now, a 2-inch wheel is usually pretty common on a bench. The problem with the Bastet is, if you look down here, is the bracket. The bracket the wheel goes in is massive. It's bigger than most brackets I see on a lot of other benches for a 2-inch wheel. The issue with this is while at most angles for most people's heights, right here, you can roll it around pretty easy. The problem is when you're shorter or you're taller, you get to here and it does not roll at all. And where that comes into play is our half rack, or even my rack, I lift inside it. So we want to get the bench as close to the back as possible where there may be a wall. So you want to be able to roll it more in an upward position, so when you drop it down, it's where it is. So what ends up happening is you get it in as far as you can, you straddle it, then your final movements, you're sliding the bench like this. And while it's doable, it's just kind of a hassle. So we went with 2.5-inch wheels, which we found on Amazon, which I will link down below. Fixes everything. But the magic of editing, the 2.5-inch diameter wheel is the largest wheel that we found fits in this bracket. You might be able to get some that are skinnier and taller, like a 3-inch or 2 3/4 inch. The problem is it raises the back of the bench off the ground. 2.5 is the largest you want to do. Now, as you can see, the bench is vertical right now, and vertical is probably something you could not do with a 2-inch. I can roll it. So you can roll it pretty much vertical if I can do it without dropping the bench, but any angle is now usable, which means your height no longer comes into play when you're moving this bench around. But the point is this ended up being a much more usable change than we ever had expected before doing it. We've owned 3 benches in this class, the Bastet, the Kepi 6000, and the GritFit Gator. 2 of those ship with arm support pads built in, while the Bastet doesn't. So instead of just saying it should have one, we added one. So this is the arm pad we mounted onto the Bastet. Same idea as what these other benches include, and honestly, I really want to know if this actually helps or if it just looks cool and gets in the way. Because this kind of feature sounds great, but not every feature earns its spot on a bench. So let's find out. If we were the first channel reviewing this bench, yep, you'd probably get the full spec dump and feature walkthrough, but we're not. And honestly, who wants to sit through the 11th spec breakdown of the same exact bench? This thing's already been covered the normal way. Flat, incline, decline, dumbbells, barbell. You've seen all that before, and you don't need another review where someone runs through every exercise they could possibly think of just to prove a bench holds weight. What usually doesn't get shown is how a bench behaves in the movements that actually expose problems. getting in and out under load, side pressure and shifting, whether the hinge and head section flex, and in this case, whether adding arm support actually helps or if it just gets in the way. So instead of 50 exercises, we're running the movements that actually tell you something useful about this bench. Here's what we're going to test. First, cable curls on the arm pad, because this will tell us first whether the support actually feels right or it immediately feels wrong. Next, preacher curls. This is a make or break movement for this pad, and if it doesn't work here, it just flat out doesn't work. Then rows, specifically watching the folding head section. This is where hinge flex usually shows up under load. After that, glute bridges and thrusts, because that puts sideways pressure on the bench, and that's where a tipsy bench is going to show itself fast. And finally, getting in and out under dumbbell load, because that's where the bench shift shows up in real training, not staged demos, which you've seen a million of already. So, all right, after running it through the movements that actually expose problems, here's where I land on the Bastet. The Bastet itself performs solidly. No spine sway getting in and out with heavy dumbbells for incline work. Same story on glute bridges, it stays planted. And with rows, even with two 80-pound dumbbells, I'm not seeing meaningful flex in the folding head section. The bench is stable, it does its job. Now, the arm pad though, it's a completely different story. It's never gonna feel as solid as benches that were built with purposely designed arm attachments. It moves a bit, it can get annoying between sets, and while it is usable and the movements do work at almost 200 bucks, it's a do not buy for me right now. If you found one cheap used, or if the price drops hard, maybe. At current cost, no. The upgraded wheels, on the other hand, are so inexpensive and such a usability improvement that I see no reason not to do that swap. Overall, I do like the Bastet. It's a great bench. I do think it's priced a little higher than it should be for what ships with it. If it included arm attachments, the price would make a lot more sense. It's that much better than the Gator, and if the Kepi had a folding head section at its price, I probably wouldn't consider the Bastet at all. But the Bastet has some real strengths. The thinner pad feels great, the vinyl is nice, and honestly, it's one of the better looking benches in its class. If you want to support what we do, our affiliate links are on our site and in the description. As always, thank you for watching.